Well, hello there again. It is I, your old pal Jeff, and we're back at it. Today I'm drawing SpongeBob SquarePants, but not really SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob De Niro. It's a mashup between actor Robert De Niro and SpongeBob. And this was another Sketch Daily subject. The subject was actually SpongeBob SquarePants, but I decided to make it give him Robert De Niro's face. I really like SpongeBob. You know, I like drawing SpongeBob. It's one of those cartoons that's kind of in my style. I draw very cartoony, and you know, I admire the art and design of SpongeBob. It kind of comes from the school of Ren and Stimpy, and the Ren and Stimpy cartoons are a big inspiration to me as well. But when I do like fan art like this, I usually try to do something that's like a little different, like, you know, give my own twist on it. And it's a little harder to give, you know, a unique twist on something that's that when I draw it, it's gonna look like the cartoon already. It'd just be like something that's already been done a bunch of times, or at least that's how I feel. So I was kind of trying to think of something different to do with it, and then I kind of got the idea in my head that I would do a mashup with a famous Bob, and there's not a lot of Bobs I can think of right off the top of my head. So I thought of Robert. That was the next thing that came to mind, and so I did Robert De Niro, and that's just because he's the first famous Robert that came to mind. And so I decided to draw SpongeBob with Robert De Niro's face. I think it turned out pretty good. It's a caricature. I wouldn't say that I have any like super good tips on caricaturing. It's like one of those things where I'm still kind of learning. I do a lot of it though, interestingly enough. If you can draw good, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to ask you to draw caricatures, even if you've never done caricatures before. And so I often get hired to do caricatures for people. Like there's a couple of companies I even do where I draw members of their team and do that in like a cartoony style. And so I've learned a little bit about caricaturing. It's still something I'm not like super comfortable with, but I do it anyway. The benefit of doing Robert De Niro's face is that he's one of those guys that's like really unique looking, and so he's easy to caricature, or easy enough. And so this was actually a lot of fun to be able to do that. When I drew it, I actually have a Samsung tablet that I just bring the pictures up, so that's why you don't see them on screen or anything, or in the actual file here in Manga Studio. And that way, and I prop that up. It has a little stand, so I prop that up next to me while I work, and so I can look at the face for reference and draw it. So that's my Robert De Niro caricature. I had a question from somebody who saw my last video. If you haven't seen it, it's on this same YouTube channel. I drew the Disneyland version of Abu, and they were asking if I used a tablet, and I do use a tablet. I have a Wacom Intuos. It's not like any of the fancy ones. I think it doesn't have like as much pressure variations as some of the fancier ones, but I don't think I would notice anyway with the way that I draw. It's pretty cool. The Intuos was one that my girlfriend gave me as a gift. It's got kind of like a rougher surface to it, so it kind of feels like paper, which is kind of interesting. I used to use a Wacom Graphier, I think it was called. I don't think they make that model anymore, or they make the bamboo now, which I think is equivalent, because when I install the Graphire tablet onto my Windows 7 computer, I have to use a bamboo driver. And there's pros and cons to both of those. My old Graphire tablet had a really smooth surface to it, so the little plastic nibs on the pens lasted forever. I mean, they lasted for a long time, for years. With this new tablet, because of the rough surface, it really wears down those pen nibs. But the upside to having the rougher surface is your hand doesn't slip a lot. Like I know with the old tablet, I would try to draw these really large swooping lines, and sometimes my hand would kind of like slip a little bit, and then I'd have to redo the line and stuff like that. But that's what I use. You kind of have to use a tablet. A lot of people ask that question, and in order to do like the pressure sensitivity, like you can see in my Spongebob drawing here with the inking and stuff, there's line variation, and in order to do that and to do it like in an efficient manner, you need to have a tablet, because the tip of the pen reads the pressure, so the harder you press, the thicker your line, the lighter you press, the thinner your line. And that's really, there's other ways of doing that and cheating, like you can use the pen tool in Photoshop and have it stroke the line and simulate pressure, or you could kind of just fake it and kind of make a shape or something like that in like Illustrator or something. But this is the best way to do it. I mean, and you gotta get good at it. The thing about using a tablet is you really have to practice with it and get used to it if you've never done it before. I know when I first started using these, it was weird, and now I'm a natural at it, and it's kind of cool because it's harder to go from traditional media to a tablet. But once you've used the tablet for a long time, you can go back to traditional media, and actually it helps your drawing ability. It helps your control. I can use like different pens and brushes now a lot better than I used to, and I've really only practiced on the computer. I mean, I've done a lot now with the brushes and stuff, like brush pens and all that, but I used to be really bad at it and controlling the pressure and stuff. But it's almost really it's more similar than you think. But yeah, so you have to have that. When I started out, I had a really cheapo tablet called the Jam Studio, and it was like, I think when you installed it, it also installed the spyware on your computer. And the interesting thing about it was that the pen wasn't wireless like the Wacom's. It had a cord connecting it, and that was like that's how I knew it. My art teacher in high school had one like that too, where there was a wire connecting it. One day I might graduate to using a Cintiq, where you draw Cintiq, or however you say that, where you draw directly on the screen. I think that might be kind of maybe a little easier, but I don't know. I've gotten used to not having my hand overlapping the artwork on the screen, and it's kind of interesting. I have a laptop, an older laptop that has Wacom technology built into it, and you can actually draw on the screen like you would with a Cintiq, and I played around with that a little bit. There's pros and cons. I mean, when your hand is it's kind of interesting. Your hand, when you're drawing on paper, your hand is covering parts of the artwork, and it's kind of the same situation when you're drawing on the screen. So it's a little different when you can actually see the whole piece of artwork that you're drawing while you're drawing it, but it's always a little tricky when you're sort of trying to like land the pen in the right spot or trace a line or something, and you're not quite on there. And the downside is with the non-screen tablet, you're not really able to like flip it around like a piece of paper. Like sometimes you want to turn the page sideways to get that good line. And you can do that in like pieces of software, like you might have saw earlier with the Spongebob drawing. I flipped the canvas sideways so I could better draw his belt, and you can do that kind of stuff, but you can't actually flip the tablet you're using, and you have to kind of make sure that your sitting at the right angle so that your lines aren't getting all crooked or something like that. But after a while, it all becomes sort of, if you're using a tablet for a long time, you sort of get used to that, and you don't think about it. It's not difficult anymore, or as difficult. But yeah, you can, that's in, like, when I'm doing the coloring, that it's really helpful to do a tablet. So, like, you'll see I'm adding these details on Spongebob, and that's done with the airbrush tool, and that also uses pressure sensitivity. So, like, when I press harder, it puts more, this digital paint out into the drawing, and then it's lighter when I lift up, and so I can kind of get these nice little gradients and stuff, and kind of, so it's really cool. If you're an artist and you want to draw digitally, you kind of have to have a tablet. You can do a lot of amazing stuff with it. I mean, there's people now that are doing incredible, like, beautifully digital paintings and stuff. I mean, when it comes to, like, pop art and comics and all that stuff, it's all done digitally now. It's just, I mean, there's still people that use traditional media and with great effect, and there's something sort of relaxing. Like, I like to sketch in my sketchbook with pens and stuff like that, and it's sort of relaxing and calming. When I'm doing it on the computer with the tablet, I find that I'm rushing through things sometimes, and I'm not really enjoying the process as much. I'm more interested in the final product. And it's like, even on this SpongeBob drawing, it was kind of a quick one. I kind of put it together really quickly. I didn't have a lot of time to do it, but I just really wanted to get through it. But if I were to be drawing this in my sketchbook, I might take a lot of time and do even more details and stuff on it than I did here. So that's kind of interesting. It's a weird thing. Sometimes you got to switch back and forth from going digital to traditional. But yeah, tablets are important. You have to use those. You don't have to, but if you're going to be drawing digitally, you kind of want to. There's people that do. Some people, they draw, like, when you're doing an inked thing like this, like comic artists and cartoonists and stuff, they still do their inking by hand because they prefer it. And that's one thing, is you can do cool inking effects. Obviously, like, my lines are much cleaner, and I don't have, like, a lot of dry brush and things like that. That's one thing I like about Manga Studios. It has those dry brush and washes and different things like that, textured brushes that feel like the real thing. But I don't use a lot of that. But if you're, like, one of those artists, who uses a lot of texture and stuff in the inking, a lot of those guys will, and girls, will draw. They will put, they'll do it on paper, and then they'll scan it in, and then add the color. And they use the tablet, to add the color too, and add, like, do the airbrush effects and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm much more cleaner, kind of like I like the bold lines. I like inking and having these bold lines with, like, this big variation in pressure. You'll notice around Spongebob here, I have, like, I'm trying to kind of mimic the style of the cartoon a little bit in this, because I thought it would be funny, even the coloring style, like, when you look at, like, packaging and stuff that SpongeBob's on merchandise and stuff like that, he always kind of has that green tint to the shadow on his yellowy sponge part and stuff. And so I was kind of trying to mimic that a little bit, because I thought it would be funnier if this looked like it was SpongeBob from the cartoon, and I didn't change it up or try to do anything too drastic other than give him Robert De Niro's face. I thought that would be funnier. But I around the edge, especially on the spongy part of him, on his face, I did those, like, bolder lines with that variation in line and stuff, and that's kind of how he's illustrated in the cartoons and stuff. And I like those bold lines. There's something really satisfying and really appealing about it. But yeah, that's the tablet. The tablet is important. But yeah, so here I added a bat because I thought Robert De Niro plays a gangster and a lot of stuff. He should have a bat. And about to be, I guess, breaking some legs or something like that. But that's that, folks. This is kind of a shorter video, I guess. But please subscribe. I'm gonna try to do more of these. I really appreciate like any support I can get. You know, I mean, the art thing's this is my career. I want to do a lot of stuff with my art, and so I really appreciate you guys subscribing to my YouTube channel here, and I want to do more. And if you want to suggest something for me to draw, please do. My girlfriend Becky suggested a pretty crazy one with a flying pig or something like that, delivering a pizza. And so I'll be doing more in the future. Thanks a lot. Subscribe, like, Tumblr, Facebook, all that great stuff. jeffmorinart.com is my website. Yeah, I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.